Welcome back to Bad Movies Rule, the podcast that gives some love to movies that others don't. But in this case, this week, I think we're giving love to a movie everybody loves. So we're never going to give up and we're never going to surrender.
Yes.
It's Galaxy Quest. Hello, how are you?
Yes, I was wondering.
Oh man, I'm so excited about talking about this movie today, guys. I think we did Three Amigos, and I think it dawned on us at that point, like at some point we're going to have to do all of the trilogy of movies about actors being thrust into real situations. And so whether or not this is actually a bad movie that qualifies for Bad Movies Rule, it fits because it's a movie we want to talk about and I don't care about following the rules. So don't at me.
Because I was going to question that, but you've now established the realm and we're good to go.
There are rules we made so we can break them.
There you go.
That voice you just heard is Joseph Gorotowski. Joseph is joining us for what, the fourth or fifth time? I think.
Definitely
something
fourth.
about that. Yeah. So welcome back, Joe. We're excited to have you, buddy.
Hey, man. Glad to be back.
We had a full house this morning, ladies and gentlemen. We also have with us Kurt Mummer is back. Kurt,
hello.
In the
How
studio.
are you?
that's right. From also the Three Amigos episode that we I should say just released, but we're like 4 weeks ahead at this point. And then beaming in from Nebraska, as always, we've got Brady Cox with us. Brady, how you doing this morning?
I'm wonderful.
Fantastic. And then, for the first time ever, all the way from California, even though she lives down the street from me, Melissa Hewitt's joining us this morning. Melissa, how are you?
I am great. Excited to be here. First time caller, long time listener. We're a fan of the show.
Awesome. Well, Melissa was going to join us in studio, but then we had to actually bump this recording a week, and she was going to be in California. But this is how dedicated she is to talking about Galaxy Quest.
On her vacation.
6:30 in the morning out in California, and here she is. You're a big trooper. Thank you.
I'm even wearing my Never Give Up, Never Surrender shirt. So I'm ready to go.
Prove it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Nice.
In this, we can see the feed in the studio.
That's
and yes,
right.
she is actually wearing it. So I confirmed it.
Well, we also want to thank all of you who are listening. Thanks for jumping on the podcast today. If you guys could do us a favor, we are listenable pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast. So whether you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google or Stitcher or anywhere, if you could share the podcast on your social media for us today, that would be awesome because, word of mouth is the best way to spread the word about our podcast. People love recommendations as opposed to just, finding us randomly. So if you could do that, that'd be a big help for us. Also, follow us on Facebook. We're at facebook.com/badmoviesrule. And if you want to email the show, if you're just sitting here listening to this and you're like, these guys are idiots and they missed half of the important things about this, I can promise you, we already know that. Send us an email at thisshowIstrash@gmail.com and we'll read your email on the next podcast. So we look forward to seeing that too as well. So I don't think, have any of you, was this your first time watching Galaxy Quest? We have any first timers in the room?
No, I want to say I saw this shortly after high school.
Okay.
I think. And then that was probably one or two times. And then I think after that, I hadn't seen it until recently.
Well, that makes sense because we graduated in 97 and this came out in 99.
Okay.
So literally right after we got out of high school. Now we're dating ourselves. Yeah, I saw this in the theater and I've only seen it probably 100 times since then. So this is a favorite for me. I know, Melissa, you've probably seen this, I don't know, countless times.
How many times do you think you've watched this movie?
Yeah. Oh, well, at least, like you said, like 100 times, but maybe not literally, but even once or twice a year, every year.
Yeah.
I actually saw it in the theater as well. I saw it was the first movie I went to see after my husband was on the show for Mystery Men, and we had just broken up at that time. And my family was like, let's go to the movies. We'll see something. And we had no idea what it was about. And we went, and it instantly became my favorite movie.
And you guys got back together.
Yes.
So Galaxy Quest brought you guys back together is what we're saying.
Sure. Let's go with that.
The pause. Sure.
All right, awesome. Well, let's get some of the vitals of the movie out of the way. This movie was directed by Dean. Now, I don't know, is it Parisot or, I mean, it's spelled with a T at the end. I'm assuming it's a French name.
Poisson.
So we'll just say this is Dean Parisot, who directed it. It was written by David Howard and Robert Gordon, and starring, guys, this cast is ridiculous. Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan frickin' Rickman, Tony Shalhoub, Sam Rockwell, Daryl Mitchell, Enrico Colatoni, Justin Long, and even a pre-fame Rainn Wilson makes an appearance in this movie. This cast is ridiculous. And we'll start with, whoever wants to go first, but just tell me what your overall impressions of this movie. When you think about Galaxy Quest, when you watch it, kind of overall, what are your feelings on it?
My personal feelings, it's, and I've heard this repeated a lot, is probably one of the best Star Trek movies ever made. So,
well, J.J. Abrams thinks the same thing, so you're in good company.
Yeah. I heard somewhere that it was actually some either Comic-Con or some event where they were, voting on the top, Star Trek movies. At an actual Star Trek convention, it came in number 7.
Really?
Yeah.
People just wrote it in.
Yep, people wrote it in.
That's amazing. It is kind of what it is, though. I mean,
I was going to say it's kind of a spoof, right? I mean, to some degree.
Maybe a love letter.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah, they're sending up the genre, but I feel like it also is made as a tribute.
Yeah.
Almost like a tribute band.
It pulled heavily off of Star Trek.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I thought it was great. Recently watching it again, everybody who was casted in this was perfectly casted.
Oh yeah.
Like you can watch it and it's still entertaining. And I had to think twice, like, well, when did this come out? Because it actually still feels kind of relevant and recent.
Oh yeah.
Where you can watch it over and over. And it doesn't seem dated.
Not at all.
Well, actually, the one part I found dated was
the corded phone.
Oh, his computer setup.
The computer setup. Him, doing models, and the father sitting
with the newspaper.
With the newspaper.
They both had the newspaper.
Only thing that I found dated about the whole setup.
I was going to say the corded phone and Alan Rickman had in his apartment as well.
Yes.
Carrying it from one room to the other.
Melissa, how about you? What's your overall impression of the movie?
I think it was actually ahead of its time because, there were a lot of parodies I know with Scary Movie and everything, but there's more appreciation, was more love for Star Trek once the reboots came out, because a lot of people and all of that, like they didn't know anything with the old show. So I think at the time, myself, my mom was a big sci-fi fan. So my sisters and I instantly clicked with it. It was awesome. But I think what made it maybe not even make as much money is that if you weren't into that world where the Comic-Cons and the actors getting pigeonholed and, all of that, I think it's difficult to connect with a broader audience. Until now, Comic-Cons are like the big thing to go to, and that was not true then.
Yeah, in fact, this depiction that they have of this fan fest in the film, I don't know how many of those are really going on back in the day. Now there's like every couple months you can catch one of those types of things.
Yeah, well, I would say definitely, because it really was not cool at all. I mean, think about even the documentary on Trekkers and all of that, and how much people would be made fun of for being so into a show like that. And that's even a big part of the beginning in the story of how obsessed those people are.
That's such a great point, because people, I think, were like, you went to a convention back then, you were a loser.
Yeah, nerd.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm still a nerd with you guys.
No, but
I'm watching shows and movies that you guys are going, really? We're going to watch this one?
It's a commonly accepted thing now to go to a comic convention. Brady, what about you? What's your overall impression of the film?
I think it walks the line between being a very good sci-fi movie and also being a lot of self-deprecating humor, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're not pulling any punches with the conventions at all, but it's done in a way where it's like one of us, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It doesn't punch down at all. And I think that's why it's stood the test of time here.
Right. In fact, I like that for the most part, they treat the fans with love and respect, right? Especially, Commander Taggart. He doesn't come in like right from the beginning, I'm over this. I can't believe I've got to, shill out autographs for money. He loves it. He's being cool with the fans. He's like playing along, obviously until the bathroom scene, but that's more of a plot device. Other than that, and I think even Sigourney Weaver at one point, her character
defended them,
gives him a hard, it's one thing to do this to us, but another to do it to your fans, right?
Exactly.
Like they show love for the fans of Brady. I think that's a great point. Scenes that must be discussed. Guys, as you look at this movie, what are one or two scenes that you look at and like, we have, if we're going to do a podcast on this movie, we have got to discuss this scene. I will start off. You guys think about one that you want to talk about, okay? But to me, the first scene that I'm like, this scene has got to be talked about is the whole sequence when he gets woken up at his house when he is passed out drunk and then has to go through, he rides in the limousine and then has this hungover interrogation or negotiation, rather, with Saris having no idea that he's in space talking to a general of an actual, space force. And the whole thing, from a comedic standpoint, from a writing standpoint, the way that they chose to do that to set the table for this was absolutely brilliant. That scene is hilarious. What do you guys think about his little hungover negotiation?
Well, that was one of the things I was actually wanting to, when you mentioned that we were going to talk about scenes. Yeah. I love the bad guy in this movie.
Saris.
Yes, Saris. Yeah. When they bring him onto the screen, I mean, you can already tell from a standpoint, he's a force to be reckoned with. Yeah. I mean, the dude's got a spiked eye patch.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The whole thing, and whoever played him,
Robin Sachs.
And that makeup, I mean, that was fantastically done to where he could move. He had facial expressions. Right. It was really well done. So I feel like that whole scene is just great because you can't make that scene happen without him being some sort of force to be reckoned with.
Well, and that's part of what makes it so funny is here's this guy who's clearly scary, clearly, as you say, a force to be reckoned with. And then Taggart is just sitting there, looking at his watch. This guy's red, and he's done? Just doing the "let's get on with it" signal with his finger, and not knowing that this guy has destroyed planets. Yeah, right, and entire civilizations.
Yeah, and enslaved he's just these other alien beings, and yet,
I mean, I tell you what, I really like is a cup holder and a couple of Advil.
Yeah, screensaver too.
Yeah.
I was going to mention the screensaver too as well because he thinks it's hilarious and the four Thermians are just looking at him like he's crazy. I also really liked the makeup. I don't know if any of you've ever seen the show Face Off that's on the Sci-Fi or was on the Sci-Fi channel. Mm-hmm. The way that they were able to do the makeup and the prosthetic so that he could actually speak and you could get a hint of facial expressions was just genius. It was, I mean, I can't imagine even wearing that whole thing.
That's part of, and a lot of actors hate having a ton of prosthetics on their face because it's almost impossible to give a good performance while you feel like you've got 10 pounds of rubber on your head. And it all your facial movements, everything other than your voice, your physicality of your entire body and your eyes, and that's it. Those are the only tools you have. Yeah. And I know that, and the makeup does some of the work, some of the lifting for you, but that's a really difficult job. And the guy's name is Robin Sachs that played that part. Not somebody anybody knows, but he is part of why this movie works. So all kudos to him.
This whole setup, especially starting with your scene as well, you really start getting the sense of the special effects in this movie. And that's another one of the reasons why I think this thing is so timeless. Is it's a combination, obviously, it's of special effects and or CGI and practical effects. Yeah, and it's one of those. It's that they find that sweet spot. Yeah, where it's the best of both worlds, and they didn't go overboard with it. They created this wonderful level that just is absolutely it's timeless. It's
you're
timeless.
Right.
And
part of what I think helps in this scene, honestly, is Tim Allen himself. Tim Allen's ability to play drunk and hungover is impeccable, just from an acting standpoint.
Huh?
Because people feel like that's an easy thing to do, is to play drunk or hungover. I just be tired. But when he just says to the guy, okie dokie, all right, let's fire blue particle cannons full, red particle cannons full, get it magnets, fire them left and right, and let them run, both shoots. And while you're at it, throw that at him, killer. That's one of my favorite lines in the entire movie.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the beginning of this whole scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
He hears the tapping on the glass, and he's waking up, and he's run into these people before, and they're just standing outside his window at whatever time in the morning this is.
Yeah.
And they've been super creepy, and it's obvious that he's creeped out by them, and he has a short discussion with them at the door. This is the most unrealistic part of the movie. He's like, come on in.
Oh, that's true.
Like, would you let any of these people in your home after the encounters you'd had with them?
When especially 2 minutes earlier, he's like, yeah, you shouldn't have come to my house, man.
Well, I think that also falls on to the fact that he loves his fans. So I think he thinks this is still a job. So I think there's a part of me that thinks like,
oh, because they're paying him.
Right. So he's like, come on in, let's talk, work over the deals. Let's figure out what's going on.
Well, I think that the idea of just him being hungover, he's not thinking straight, because he's asking them to help find. I mean, he's not even dressed. He doesn't have any pants on. His shirt.
Find this other shoe.
The button. Yeah, and when they look up at the ceiling, when he says, "Help me find my shoe," that was just a genius moment, because it gave us the idea that they were clueless.
Yeah.
And he didn't see it. He didn't see any of that. He was so up in he was so upset about what he heard in the bathroom. And so in that moment, he wasn't truly captain. And I think that would be one of the reasons why he missed so many of the clues. Well, I know that obviously one of the reasons he missed so many of the clues of what was really going on.
Right. Well, he missed getting transported to space because he said, I'm closing my eyes. I'm listening to everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Kurt, what is your scene that must be discussed?
First and foremost, I feel what got the buildup to a really great laugh.
Yeah.
Which was when they finally were all beamed to the ship.
Yes.
And he's trying to drive the ship, and it's all leaning to the left, and they're all trying to and you can see Sigourney Weaver's kind of like, and everyone's kind of preparing to we're gonna wreck,
right?
And then when he just scrapes, and what I love is the detail.
Yes.
If you watch, you can see flecks of metal.
Yeah.
Like coming off and floating away into space, because he's actually grinding it that hard into the side of the port. And it's just so great to watch him, just the intensity that everyone's having at that exact moment.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, and then just to go, all right, we got it. We did it. All right, let's get this thing going.
Now, in defense of Laredo, imagine being told, all right, take us out. And you've never actually driven a spaceship before in your entire life. The sheer terror, and you've got a whole ship full of people, and you're just like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna drive this giant spaceship, and he can't even drive it straight out. It's great. It's a great gag.
Well, my husband said that's like one of his absolute favorite and least favorite parts. First, I will say it's very important. Such a full Laredo saying, "Oh, I'd worked this whole thing out."
Yeah.
So that was an important moment. Also, when he goes, "Oh, glad I'm not the captain," just laugh at that moment. But my husband loves ships, and so it's so great, the moment where it's scraping. And I agree. Last night I was watching it and seeing that moment. But once they get through that, you notice that the wings go way past where that scraping part was.
Yep.
And so he gets really upset about it. He's like, that would not happen. And of course, for me, I would never have noticed that, but he's just really into that portion. So he said that last night.
I noticed it too. And it is a little annoying.
You know what else really wouldn't happen? Being covered in jelly and sent into space. So,
yes. Brady, what's your scene that must be discussed?
I think we have to talk about, they're going for the beryllium sphere.
Oh, yes.
Oh, you took my damn scene. Thanks,
well, that's
Brady.
okay.
I'm sorry. But
Oh, me too.
it does have to be discussed, right?
Well, then let's discuss it. It seems like that's the one everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
To me, that scene starts in the ship coming down, right? In the little transporter coming down.
Yeah.
When Guy realizes he should have stayed on the ship because he came because he thought something was up there that would have killed him. But now he's thinking he's the guy that's going to die 10 minutes after they get here. Starting from that point until they get back, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's it's important that they get these beryllium spheres. One thing that does bother me is that they come out of the ground the right shape and size as how the sci-fi writers deemed it to be on Earth, and neither of those things have anything to do with each other. But again, we'll let that go.
It is called a sphere.
I guess you just mine a perfect sphere out of the ground every single time.
And they're all of uniform size.
Yeah, man, that's how they, I think maybe that's just a nod to the original Star Trek TV shows. Right? That's because even the sphere itself looked like a prop from a 60s sci-fi show.
I mean, it's a common plot device. We need to get whatever the fuel is. I forget what it is on Star Trek, but they just go to the planet. They never show it.
Right.
And if they do, it's already refined and whatnot. So it's just very hand-wavy usually in the TV show and the movies. So
yeah,
I we're letting it go here for the sake of the fact that, we're kind of, it's a kind of a send up on Star Trek in the first place.
One of my favorite parts of that scene is when they land and Fred just opens the door.
Yes. Yeah. And Guy is just freaking out. What about the action?
Yeah.
What about this? He's like,
is there air?
And he just seems fine to me.
Yeah, I mentioned that part as well because, he's is there air? You don't know. And he's the practical one. And it reminds me of Tropic Thunder, where there's the one character who actually went through the training and, he, all of that. And so this is the same thing with Guy, because he's like, at one point, did you guys even watch the show?
Yes. Did you guys ever watch the show that you were on?
I love the reason why I like this one.
Yeah.
This scene is just simply because of, it really sets the characters, their level of jokes.
Yeah.
Such, and their kind of relationship with each other. You got the whole miners confusion between them being children or actual mining crew.
Miners, not miners.
You have Sigourney Weaver talking about, hey, we got to get out of here before one of those kills Guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really sets up a lot of the character development and how they're going to interact with each other for the rest of the movie in this one scene. And yeah, it's jam packed with the gems.
I think that's why this is the best scene in the movie, personally.
Mentioning that, I was thinking about Tim Allen, right? Like, as far as Tim Allen's concerned, I feel like he, other than like Jim Carrey, like he in every role is almost the exact same person, but yet so different because of who's around him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like Santa Claus, Buzz Lightyear, even, Tim the Toolman Taylor, like it's all just, it's who he is. But yet everyone that's around him, I feel, makes the movie different. So his character seems different. Does that make sense? Am I?
No, I think you're nailing it. And that brings up kind of a point. The original director was supposed to be Harold Ramis.
Of this.
Yeah. And he wanted to have an action star that could pull off comedy. And instead, the original writer and such, they were more leaning towards a comedian that could pull off an action star. And I know even because of Tim Allen coming on, Harold Ramis actually backed out of the whole project. And after they had made Galaxy Quest and Harold Ramis looked at it, he even admitted, which is another reason why Harold Ramis is such a cool dude.
Class act.
He even admitted that Tim Allen was perfect for the part. And the way they played it was the right way.
That's awesome.
So, but yeah, there's, the fact that they were trying to get, a comedian to do an action star instead of an action, star to do a comedic role. Wow. I don't think Arnold would be very, very well received in this one, so we should probably just let that one go.
I don't know. I would like to have seen him as the bad guy.
Arnold does not make this movie better.
I don't. I have to say. Oh, there you go. Arnold does not make this movie better.
That is absolutely not true. He 100% would make this movie better. 100%.
Let's take a vote. Come on.
Where would you put him, James?
If he played a Thermian with that cluelessness and the great walk, I mean, I absolutely love the choices they made on how they got the Thermians to walk.
Yes.
If he were one of them, it would have stolen the show.
Absolutely. Mathazar?
Okay.
I don't know.
Arnold as Mathazar? Come on.
No, not Mathazar.
I just think some big dumb lunk in the corner that doesn't say a lot, I think that, but like, I agree. Okay, sure, he doesn't make it better as Tim Allen or whatever, but sure, as an alien, yes.
Yeah.
He would make it better.
Thank you. He doesn't have to be the main character, right? I mean, look how much better he made Batman and Robin. He played the bad guy in that movie.
Everybody chill.
Everybody. Cool party. All right. Sorry.
So you just
sending me to the cooler boy.
What movie are we doing?
This another part from this scene Melissa, maybe I'll let you go because I don't want to. Is there anything else in this scene that you love?
Oh, 100%. I love. Now I know we're filming Galaxy Quest from a few down, but as I said, longtime listener, I was listening to your Three Amigos, and I love the moment when Laredo says, well, we'll come up with some kind of a signal. And he's like, caw, caw. And that just, it felt like such a throwback to that, an allusion to that. And then when they're actually in trouble, he still doesn't use the whatever, I was going to say tricorder, because, and he's, he's just running, yelling that. So I love that. And the other was when they're all walking along, and Tim Allen is just being super action hero. And then Sigourney Weaver's character says, does the rolling help?
Yes, it helps.
And I think the thing that with Guy that is the funny joke about Star Trek is he's supposed to be a red shirt, right? Essentially.
Yep.
The red shirts that would die before the first commercial to prove that the situation is serious.
Yep.
That's just brilliant in my book. Well, since that was all like, it sounded like the scene that you all wanted to talk about, let's talk about one more before we move on. We'll touch on lots of different parts of this movie, but this was, I think, maybe an overlooked scene when people look at this movie. It's the first real negotiation. Now he's brought the crew on board, right? And they're all going to meet Saris for them the first time, for Taggart the second time, right? And they're going to try their hand at being actual heroes for the first time. And it just goes horribly, horribly wrong. And to me, when he says 10 seconds, okay, gosh darn it, you win. You can have it. You just got to give me a minute to put it in a box for you. I'm like, this guy is stalling. He doesn't even know what the thing is. He's going to put the Omega-13 in a box for him. It just all goes to crap. He does the kill signal. And then I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what he says about him, but he's on the screen the whole time.
He says that he's as stupid as he is ugly.
That's right.
So then that's how it gets turned back around on him. And one of my favorite lines is when she says, no, I was agreeing with you. Like, I know where the hold button is.
Right. No, you gave me the we're dead signal. I was agreeing with you. Yeah, man. And then they just get blasted into oblivion after that. And then Brady, this is a good thing to talk about. We haven't touched on this about Tony Shalhoub as Fred Kwan, because in that scene, as they're getting blasted apart, he has one of the best moments in the movie.
Right. I never get this quote exactly right. And I don't think anybody ever does.
Doesn't matter.
You have to be stoned in order to get this quote right.
Hey guys, they're telling me that like the whole ship's coming apart. Just FYI.
It's a spoof on the Scotty thing, right?
Right. Like it's like the exact opposite of what you'd want in an engineer.
because
in that line, it's not just the FYI, but he just alludes to, he says, oh gosh, I wrote it down, but he says, and all that kind of stuff. So that he's really just going, yeah, you guys remember on the show, some of this, he's so calm. And then when he just says, and all that, and all that kind of stuff, you realize that he just was like, yeah, it's another episode. Remember how all that happened?
Yeah, well, I always think of Scotty like coming on the thing and he's, totally losing his mind, like his hair's on fire, right? I've given it all. She's got Captain. If I push her any harder, it's going to blow. And then here's this Fred just comes on, like does the exact opposite, right?
Hey guys,
it's
just to let you know.
Yeah, it's coming apart down here. I just letting you know, just FYI,
in case you wanted to do something about it.
Oh my god!
One thing I wonder, was this the choice by Tony Shalhoub, or was it written this way?
Yeah,
I think it was Tony Shalhoub. I think he came in. I was reading some article. He came in with several different characters, and he ended up going with this.
That's interesting. We were talking about that last night. Was the character he was playing, like when he was like saying that, where ships breaking apart and all that, getting the guys to help him, and he's like, okay, group hug. And we were trying to figure out, was that his character on the show, or was that just how, Fred Kwan was? And so we were wondering about that. But it is an excellent choice that makes me put him in the top of my list of people who were great actors in that. But yeah, we couldn't tell what kind of a choice, if it was there for him or if he did it.
Right. And that's why it makes it a great performance, because in any film, really, when you can't see the seams, you can't see, it's so natural. You don't know if maybe was that improvised, was that scripted? I mean, that means it's just a great in the moment performance on his part and on pretty much all their parts, especially Sigourney Weaver. You brought it up before with her line about let's get out of here, because she rarely gets a chance to do comedy. You look back at her career and she just didn't get a lot of chances to do that. And she's great.
Yeah. She had a couple different options at this point in time, and she wanted this role.
Oh,
she wanted this role because she felt like this role was made for her, come with all the Aliens movies. I think she was like just coming off of Alien Resurrection at the time. Yeah. And, this really resonated with her. I know that this movie, excels because of the cast. And, we always talk about, unsung heroes. I think the casting director on this one really nailed it. Getting the right people, for the right job, and the fact that they came together and the chemistry between the cast was so well done.
Yeah.
It just oozed out onto the screen.
Yeah.
And this, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, I mean, all these people, it was an absolute perfection of casting. This is definitely a gold standard of how to make a good movie.
Yeah.
Writing, directing, acting, set, production, this and that. The only place this movie failed was advertising. That was it.
I agree.
When I saw Sigourney Weaver, first on the stage, was, oh my gosh, I did not know she was drop dead gorgeous. She played this part that was so contrary to Aliens and everything else. She had that, tight curly hair or shaved head, and to watch her become this part of the show as being a sex symbol, I had never thought of her in that way at all. So to me, it was a huge departure, absolute amazing choice for her to make to break through the fact that she's not just the tough alien girl.
And she was 51 at the time they made this. That's a whole other thing on top of all that she took that on and just crushed it. It was amazing.
What I wanted to say on that fact was, so I never saw Aliens at that time.
What?
Yeah. The only thing I knew her from was Ghostbusters.
Have you seen it since?
Oh yeah. But what I'm saying is when I saw her,
drop kicked you right now.
What I first saw her in was Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess I kind of thought she could be a sex symbol or a sexy woman, because like as a kid, I thought she was very pretty.
Yeah.
Funny
in
thing
that
is,
movie.
I thought the same thing of Harold Ramis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if you guys have seen Heartbreakers, but that's another movie that she's in where she's beautiful. I mean,
that's probably a movie that should be on this podcast.
And very funny as well.
This movie, and it was after this movie she began to play more of these type feminine roles. She's coming off of this, then she was in Holes, which is a great movie, and then and she was in Heartbreakers, and was clearly playing somebody who was very flirtatious and sexy in that movie. But prior to that, I didn't even think she was that pretty in Ghostbusters. So this, to me, was her really flipping the switch on what she was known for.
Right. All right, guys. So now we're going to do another new segment. We are going to talk about maybe some of the little moments in the movie that really stood out to you, things that, it wasn't an entire scene. Maybe it was a physical gag or an Easter egg or a quote or a reaction shot or something like that. But the little moments that you think we have got to discuss. So for the first time ever on Bad Movies Rule, it's the little moments.
Nice.
I like that sound effect.
I've been waiting all day to do that.
I want to go first so that nobody steals this.
Okay.
But the Chomper, the whole moment, and she says, "Whoever wrote this episode should be shot." And just that line.
Yes. Well, and how about her, the original line, when she comes around the corner that they dub over, right?
Yeah, and that was there was that documentary after that because they didn't want it to be a PG movie originally.
Yeah.
And so they purposed it where you could see her, have the F word being said, but it says "screw that."
Yep.
And I think that is that tiny moment as well that gives an extra layer of laugh.
Absolutely.
They meant to. The editor wanted that dub to be as ridiculous as possible because of that. Because that expression of "F this," that was the right one, but they had to do it for the PG.
Yeah.
So the guy, literally, they kept the same.
Well, because they barely ever do that in movies, Joe. If you're going to do a dub that doesn't fit, in fact, there's one earlier in the movie when she says they're suffocating. If you watch, her mouth never moves. It's a voiceover, basically. But they'll like push it off to the side or they cut away from her face or something like that. But it barely ever do they just do it straight to camera like that.
Yeah, and they did this on purpose.
Yeah.
But it's weird that this movie was actually rated R.
Yeah.
Because of the language.
Right.
And so they had the tone.
It is funny, but part of me, every time I see it, is like a little pang of disappointment in my heart because how great it would have been after basically no swearing the entire movie for her to come around the corner at the end and just drop that line. It would have been perfect.
It would have been.
Perfect.
And appropriate.
Yes, and totally appropriate. And it's a great gag. I feel like, and so you guys start thinking about some little moments you want to talk about. I'm going to bring this one up because, first of all, because we haven't talked about him at all this entire podcast. Justin Long, when he runs out of the house with the fireworks and his mom and dad stop him, and he says, I typed this out because I love it so much. I wanted to get it right. He says, the protector just got super accelerated coming out of the black hole and just nailed the atmosphere at like Mark 15, which you guys know is pretty unstable, obviously. So we're going to help Laredo guide it in on the Vox Ultra Frequency Carrier and use Roman candles for visual confirmation.
Okay. Just be home by dinner.
That little moment, man. It's not a scene. It's not a whole scene. It's just him running out of the house and the whole thing. And it's relatable because like we've all like done that thing with our parents where we're like just trying to quickly explain what we're trying to go do. So just let us get out the door and go do it. And
yeah, absolutely.
It's just, oh gosh, I love that part so much.
That's why it's not punching down. I mean, it's endearing. It hits on all the points. It's he's all the ultra fanboy.
Yes.
And the parents can relate because it's like, okay, be home by dinner. It's like whatever you guys are doing.
At least he's outside.
Yeah, exactly. At least he's outside.
Oh man, Joe, how about for you? What's a little moment in this movie that you want to talk about?
Calgon, take me away. Tony Shalhoub.
Yes.
When he gets the idea of transporting the rock monster.
Yes.
Into the, the fact that guy was ready to sacrifice himself.
Right.
And then Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
He played this role. He was over the top.
Oh yeah.
If you really pay attention to Sam throughout this whole film, you will see so many little gags and such.
Oh sure.
during that scene where he's like preparing himself, he's almost drunk on his what you call it, he's stumbling and barely holding himself, but he's still trying to pose with the gun and everything. Right. And then Tony Shalhoub's like, hey, kind of talks him down off the ledge. He's like, wait a minute, I got an idea. And he's like, right.
But it also shows a great connection between the two. Like, they're starting to accept Guy. Because remember, in the beginning of the movie, Guy was like, I'm dead. Hey, can I sit down and do some autographs with you? Hey, can I, and he basically forces himself on his ship. Make that 5. I'm coming too. But he's part of the crew by this point in the movie. Yeah. Right? So it's a great moment for that reason too.
Yep. I love that little
It's
scene
great.
And just the look on their faces.
Kurt, how about for you? What is a little moment?
So nice.
I'm going to beat that to death.
Do it, please. Well, I guess a few moments one of the ones I wanted to touch base on was shortly after that was when the beaming joke. Like, how many times do any sci-fi movie has the beaming joke?
Yes.
And they beam that like pig-snouted, I don't even know what he was fighting.
Yeah, pig lizard.
Yeah, so like, and it explodes. And he's like, what do you mean it exploded? And that whole scene is just fantastic. Like, it not only does it set up all the characters, but it just sets up the whole beaming gag, which is done in Spaceballs. I mean, there's
no more beaming. This time I'm going to walk.
Yeah. So, I mean, just comically, that was hilarious to me. And then I still go back to the bad guy. Yeah. But that moment when he throws it back to Tim Allen.
Yes.
And he's just like, oh, yeah, so I've been here the whole time, you jerk. And he basically is like, I'm better than you are.
Yeah.
Like,
right. Well, he totally underestimates the actors.
Absolutely. But then at the end, when he finally kind of outsmarts him. Yeah. I love that whole scene as well. Because it's like, crap. Like, I totally underestimated this, Taggart. Yeah. And then I also love, I'm just throwing this one out there.
Go for it, yeah.
Do it. Engine blocking.
The choppers.
And they're like, who builds an engine like this? Like, I mean, that's classic, because they do that in movies all the time.
Yeah, and can I just say, as far as like the nerds having the sequencing, the choppers are moving way slower in the TV show that they're basing their timing off of, right? But somehow it still works. Melissa, for you, what are some little moments that you love?
Well, other than the first one I said, but you just touched on the things with the piglets, and it's these tiny moments when it explodes and the Thermian, and I don't remember what the actor was. Yeah. Everyone else is ducking and hiding, and he just takes the force of this guck on his face, and just it's great. And another part is when a couple things, just that tiny lines in that whole moment where Alan Rickman says, you should look around you. Can you form some sort of rudimentary lathe?
That's another good one.
A lathe?
Get off the line, Guy.
So the other part I like, so other than the rudimentary lathe, and I'm sorry that's by Rockwell, not when Rickman then next says, what's its motivation? Right. And when Tim Allen's like, it's a rock, and then he yells back at him, you never took this craft seriously. Right. And then when he comes back, and it's just, Rickman's so amazing in this, but he says, see, you managed to get your shirt off. Right. Just great moments in there that clearly he's mad about the show and not really thinking about there's a giant rock monster.
No, and I think this plays into another thing from Star Trek, right, which is the famous relationship between Shatner and Nimoy, right, where there was jealousy about who got the better lines, right? He was annoyed that Kirk would always get his shirt off and sleep with all of the extras and stuff and all of that stuff. And I love all of the humor in this that is based off of him being a serious actor, right? Like how Tim Allen gets him to come back in at the very beginning of the movie. Like, he's going to leave the thing, right?
Yep. The show must go on. And he's like, damn it.
Right? Like, he knew exactly what to say to him. Brady?
My favorite part about this whole bit is when they're on the phone with each other. You see Sigourney Weaver's home. Yep. And then you see Tim Allen's home. Yep. And then you see Alan Rickman's disheveled apartment. Yeah. I love it.
Those things, filmmaking is a visual medium, right? And Things like that are little like next level things that filmmakers put into movies that often go right past people, but it absolutely feeds into the whole story, and it's awesome.
My daughter instantly, she said, "Why is he still wearing the headpiece since he hates it so much?"
Yeah.
So he's at home wearing that, and it was interesting to me that she picked directly up on that there's still, I think he still has that. He hates it, but he still loves it. And I don't know if that was their intention there, but it was very true, and that she picked up on that right away.
Yeah.
Whereas I never really thought about that other than it was just a funny thing.
Yeah. He hates his life. I think he really does at that point. And then by the end, he doesn't. But in the beginning, I mean, have you ever seen somebody more miserable than when he was at the electronics store opening, right?
Yeah.
Brady?
By grandfather's hammer. What a savings.
What a savings. And his little, like, he stops and swallows, like, before he says the second half of it, right? Because he's, like, stealing himself for this, like, shilling of electronics. And it's just such a great moment. Such a great moment.
It's really endearing as well with his character.
They've got like 4 balloons on the table. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. That's good. Yeah, absolutely. Remember when we used to release balloons?
Oh, yeah.
And that was okay.
That was
back
okay.
in the day when we were kids, and now it's like
no, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
it's weird. Off subject. But no, it was very endearing with Alan Rickman's character because he absolutely hated that line, and everybody pushed him to say that.
Right.
But again, it came back to the great writing and how at the end he actually got to deliver that line sincerely, to somebody.
Yep.
And again, it was a very,
very
neat how they brought that back.
Ultimately, those aliens are fans of the show.
That's true.
Ultimate nerds.
Which I thought was fantastic because he hated in the beginning doing anything for the nerds, but then at the end was like, this guy's a fan of the show.
Right.
And he has based love and emotions and
his life, dedicated his life
into the show. How could I not do it at this moment and give that to him?
Yeah.
To make him, oh man, like
that's why this
it was
movie's good.
such an awesome delivery.
That's the dual levels of the Thermians that I think people don't realize is that you're playing a character they're aliens, they've built all this stuff, they're in a war, but they're fans at the same time. And so they're carrying both of that. It's like if the people from the convention were spacefaring aliens, and it's those two coming together, which is what makes it work so well, I think.
Way off subject real quick. Do you think Drax from
Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, was a
Thermian?
Thermians. Do you think Drax was a Thermian?
Well, he had the sensibilities of one.
Just like
with no
everything went over his head?
Yes.
Okay.
In that way, absolutely, yes.
I just thought of Drax every time.
Something I wanted to kind of throw out there too. It's a little off topic, but still pretty interesting. My daughter is 4, and she was able to put together that Snape, because we've been watching the Harry Potter series.
Yeah. Yep.
That she recognized Rickman.
Oh.
And she recognized Rockwell from Iron Man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was really interesting. Like on a 4-year-old level, I don't know if that goes to show like how prominent those two actors are as actors, that she was able to identify them either by their voice or just by how good of an actor they are. I just thought that was really interesting because she asked me, she said, and she didn't know his name, Snape, but she was like the Black Cloak guy.
Why is Snape an alien in this movie?
And I was just like, I had to explain to her that these are actors and that they're in other movies.
Yeah.
And she just couldn't put the two together.
It also say that you guys watch a lot of movies with your kids.
Yeah, I was going to point that out.
Yeah. I guess
you may be watching too many movies.
Maybe I should, read a book here and there.
Well, a few more quick little moments I want to make sure we mention before we move on to our tropes and nitpicks is in one of my favorite lines in the entire movie, which is Sigourney Weaver saying, "I have one job on this ship. It's stupid, but I'm going to do it." Okay? Yep. Her job is the dumbest job out of everybody on that ship. she talks to the computer.
Yep.
That's it. And Tim Allen's frustration in that scene of having to have a go-between every time he's trying to ask a question, and then he has to wait for it to be repeated and then repeated back to him, is played perfectly by Tim. Even though she gets the money line in that scene, Tim sells the crap out of it, and it's just great all around. So that's a great moment. Two more small, these aren't even dialogue, but the gasp the Mathazar makes when they just suggest, why don't you just try turning on the Omega-13? And I can't even make the noise that he makes. But he does this incredible, like, I don't even want to, I can't even, like
try it.
I can't try it because I can't do it. He's like, like his jaw unhinges and opens like 4 times, right? And that's great. But this is the one that to me is all right, no joke, the best moment, better than any dialogue, better than anything in the entire movie.
You're laying it on thick.
Okay? Because I'm laying on thick because I want you guys to know how serious I am about this. It's the thing that makes me laugh the hardest. I don't care how many times I see this movie. At the very end, when they're doing the credits for the new show, and Guy Fleegman comes out with his hair all done, turns towards the camera, and gives the finger gun and the little stupid smirk on his face, it kills me every single time. It's perfect. It's one of the most perfect shots in frames in a movie ever.
Wow.
And he has a last name.
Right.
They finally say his last name. It says Fleegman.
Right. It's so Sam Rockwell's act. It seems like something easy and cheesy to do. You turn, you smile, but to do that well and that funny and that much and that douchey is credit to Sam Rockwell because. It's so far from what his character had been the entire. Like now he's got all the confidence in the world.
I mean, he was crying "Mama," on the shuttle down,
right
to Sigourney Weaver. He's like, "Mama."
And also an interesting note: the only one to not get killed by Saris the first time that Saris comes in and kills everybody.
Yes,
he's supposedly the one that is going to die first, and everyone else gets killed but him.
I did not ever. I mean, I've seen this so many times. Oh my gosh!
What a great point.
Yeah, when you, I think obviously they had to have done that on purpose, given how they joked the whole time that he would be the first one to die. But when you go back and watch that, he never gets shot. He just stands there like freaking out the whole time.
Can I add another scene
that
I really loved?
Yeah,
do you have to?
So yes. So
okay.
the moment where I forget the lead alien's name though. Oh, hello. Mathazar,
yep.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So when Mathazar is laying strapped to that table, and Tim Allen has to tell him,
I know
that's a show.
Yeah.
The moment of disappointment that you hear is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like that from an acting standpoint, from everybody. I mean, from the villain to Mathazar to Taggart, everyone's face in that whole thing is just like, and I love when Saris is just like, tell him,
as you would a child.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and just to dig that screwdriver in just a little harder, or that knife right in the back. I mean, and just that moment of disappointment, you feel the angst of everything in that scene. I love it.
They never owned up to it. At the end, they actually
but
they said it was oh, by the way, we need to start. It's not a podcast. This is a historical document.
That's right. It's a historical document.
So we need to start talking about it as such. But they talked about how they were admitting to it.
That is one of the two emotional moments in that the movie that like actually made me tear up was that moment, because when you think about it, they actually were admitting, despite the aliens not getting it, but that their life and their moments were a lie. And I was trying to really think about how would I describe to a child who hadn't already experienced shows. That would obviously have to be like in a vacuum of a planet, but that so much of that, because he acts, Tim Allen, from the beginning like he's the hero. Even when they're all running away after the first moments after with realize it's real, that moment just saying we lie, and the look on Mathazar's face, it's got a tear on that one, because every person is perfect. Their facial expressions, that moment of disappointment and fear and it's a brilliant moment.
It is. And it's part of why I think this movie works, right? So if we're to move to the post-mortem essentially, right? And we've, covered and turned around and poked this movie in many different ways. And we start to look at, okay, why does this movie work? Specifically, what is it that makes it work? And for me, I think that one of the things that makes it work is the fact that there are real stakes, right?
Yes.
That, they're alien or they're actors, and they're in this funny situation with aliens, but they did it all in a very serious way where there was real civilizations at risk. There was death and there was loss and heartbreak and a villain that was actually trying to kill them. It wasn't like Megaforce or some of these movies where like we know no one's actually in any danger.
Yep.
And the fact that there was real stakes is what made the comedy hit harder. It made everything hit harder. And I think that's part of the reason why the movie works so well.
It's a really good point.
Well, let's move on to our segment. And if you don't have any, if you think this is the perfect movie and you've got nothing to offer in this segment, that's fine. But this is where we're going to talk about our tropes and nitpicks. What are some things that you maybe didn't like about Galaxy Quest?
Hearing people talk in the bathroom, that happens frequently where somebody's overhearing something and it's important, but it is something that, happens over.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie trope, and that's the one I had too, right? How many movies has that happened in where somebody hears somebody ripping on them in the bathroom while they're in the stall, right? And we got to have a better way, or at least a more creative way. I mean, at one point it was creative. That's how it became a trope, but then everyone uses it, and now it's like, okay, you almost know it's going to happen as soon as he walks into the bathroom. Anybody else? Anything that stood out to you or little nitpicks about the movie? I know we already talked about the fact that the wings on the ship shouldn't have fit in the spaceport. The one thing for me that I thought was really lame is when they're all now in hero mode and they're taking back the ship over and they're handing out the jobs and they just tell Laredo, you're going to practice driving. And I'm supposed to believe that all he did was sit there and watch old videos of himself. And now he is an absolute 5-star master at piloting this spaceship, because I don't know what you could learn to how to fly a spaceship from watching somebody pull 2 sticks around. And that's
not practice.
I thought that was the lamest thing of the entire movie.
I disagree, actually, because I thought it really, there was that foreshadowing moment when in the beginning I figured everything out. So they set it up that, he watched all these clips. And the bad part, to agree with you, is the amount of time. He would have had to watch hours to really remember how he figured it out. But I did like that connection. But you're right about the fact that it's way too unrealistic that it happened that fast.
I don't know if you could spend a year. I don't know what watching a kid move some sticks around teaches you about flying a spaceship.
Everything.
That's just me. Again, it's a nitpick.
Well, but his spaceship.
Yeah.
It was his spaceship, his movement. So,
but he never actually flew the ship.
If it was,
he never actually flew the ship in reality.
True.
So he's still doing something he's never done, just from watching somebody on a cardboard set.
He's watching videos of himself not knowing how to fly a ship.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah.
For articulating what I'm trying to say.
And then figuring out how to fly a ship by
watching videos.
Somebody who also didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, right.
It's a small nitpick. I mean, it's
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
we're trying to find.
There's not very much in this movie to nitpick, but there are
not
a couple
really.
things.
I mean, the trope I was going to say was the bathroom one, but that totally makes sense.
Well, we've got the one that you mention all the time. So it now sticks every time I watch something. Is the TV? People are turning it on, and he turns on the TV. I know he flips a couple of channels, but right there is the perfect Galaxy Quest show.
Right.
And on one hand, you could pretty much flip channels and see any some Star Trek episode somewhere. But it's really easy. How do we make him have these emotions? Oh, let's have him see an episode.
Yeah. See? So now you see what I'm talking about. All the time they use television, which is the most random chance thing ever, to convey important information. It drives me nuts.
That's how I get all my information.
Well, these days we can pick on demand exactly what we're going to watch. And it wasn't like that back in the day, right? Let's I should say, Brady, do you have any nitpicks?
The bathroom scene was my huge one. I mean, that's such a glaring, it really takes me out of the movie every time I watch this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like, on one hand, I want to say it's lazy writing, but on the other hand, as somebody who has written things before, sometimes you just got to get it done.
No, I can appreciate that. I just don't know what those people are doing at the convention, right?
They're trolls.
Exactly.
I mean, all of the fandom of between Star Trek, Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, this and that. There is a subculture of all those fans, and those fans are just trolls.
Toxic fandom.
Toxic fandom. I mean, that's what this is touching on. At the time, the internet wasn't super huge, as it is now.
Yeah.
So that's how they conveyed, what that is, and they hit on it. I think before its time.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Right.
But they just did it in the bathroom instead of online.
Well, let's move on to our awards, guys. I think this is going to be a really tough job for us. We're going to have to parse this out. There's about 40 people that are great in this movie, and we have got to narrow it down to our top 3 performers. But before we do that, our Will Patton Award winners. So go through in your minds right now. Think back. There was lots of people that were only featured in small parts in this movie, but a lot of them were hitting home runs every scene that they were in. So we got to decide right now who is the Will Patton Award winner for Galaxy Quest. Joe, if you had to nominate somebody, who would be it?
Missy Pyle.
Missy Pyle. Jane Doe.
She turned me on the bangs. What can I say? Nerdy bangs.
Is she the alien girl?
Yeah.
She's the alien girl.
So now,
That makes out with Fred.
Yeah.
that's fantastic because, again, she's in everything.
Yeah.
But everything she's in is just one little role.
Right.
I mean, I remember her from the mom in the new remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep.
She was Violet's mom, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then she was also in 50 First Dates. She was the girl that he first rejects and jumps on the getaway ski boat.
Yep.
And then so I mean that was going to be my choice.
All right, so we got 2 votes for Missy Pyle. Let's throw it to our friend in California. Who is your Will Patton Award winner?
So when you first asked me to be on this show, which I did tear up. I was very excited. But instantly I picked Joseph Patrick Bean, and he was the one that talked about how he saw Rickman's character as a dad, and and then the moment that I did cry, a moment was when he says by Grabthar's hammer, and that juxtaposition and the seriousness, but the guy just, when he's breathing his last breath, it's almost like a fish, and he's like, and the blues coming out of his mouth. That just, to me, was such a good performance for someone so small, but he's in so many scenes, and you see that of Rickman's character. Yeah,
Quellick, the guy that played Quellick, fantastic choice there. Brady, how about for you?
I'm going to go a very nerdy path here. He doesn't show up until the last scene of the movie. They asked him, you know who I'm saying here.
Yes, I love the kids in the hall. Come on.
Yes, they asked him to be a Thermian, and he did not have time to do it. But they picked a small part for him to announce at the end. He just survives the first spaceship crash on Earth ever recorded, and he's a professional and gets up there and does his job and announces the crew. And so, for no other reason than, I'm a huge nerd, I'm picking Kevin McDonald.
All right.
There you go.
All right. Kids in the Hall represented. And I know, I love every time I see that guy. He would have been a great Thermian. I mean,
of course he would have.
His voice he already sounds like a Thermian when he talks. So that would have been perfect. But it looks like we're going to have to give this award to Missy Pyle because that was also my choice. So that's 3 out of the 5 of us are going to go with Jane Doe. And to me, the moment that sealed it was when the first time they kiss. I had actually, because I was taking notes, and I had paused it. And it was right as she was going in to kiss him. And the face she was making was like a starving person diving on a Christmas ham. Okay. And the whole time, the way she carries her head, her neck is always bent weird. I mean, she was fully committed. I thought she did a great job. And so while there's no bad choices, all of you made good choices.
It was great too when she was first talking to Tim Allen in the limo.
Right. He's like trying to hit on her, right? He's like, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
Right? He's like,
what's with her?
Obviously, he always is trying to hook up with groupies, I'm guessing, right? And so he's like eyeballing her. And then as soon as she lets out her her natural voice, he's like, okay.
Untranslated voice.
Well, she was my number 2 pick, so I definitely would give it to her. I mean, she did so many indie films, and she, because of her eyebrow arch, I really think she often played a bad, person character, and she was great at that. So watching her in this, definitely, she was great. She was great.
Awesome. So let's go to our top 3 performers because we're getting close to the end here. If you'd like to list who you think in order, 1 through 3 or 3, 2, 1, however you want to do it, you felt like out of this incredible cast, so this is going to be some hair splitting, who do you think was the top 3 performers in the movie? And we'll just go in the same order. So, Mr. Gorotowski, who is your top 3 performers?
Alan Rickman, Sigourney Weaver, Tim Allen, Sam Rockwell, Tony Shalhoub, Dara Mitchell, Justin Long.
No.
Dang it.
Give me your best. Give me at least your number 1. Who is your number 1?
It's tough. Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell. All right.
That's my number 1.
Okay, perfect. Kurt, who are your top 3?
I'm going with the bad guy.
Saris. Okay.
Going Mathazar at number 2.
Ooh.
I'm going Taggart at number 1.
Tim Allen with the number 1
I
spot.
just feel like without those 3, the drive of the movie, they held all 3 of them for each character they played. Really helped make the movie go to where it was.
I don't think you're wrong. I think if Tim Allen fails in this part, the whole movie falls apart. So
absolutely.
So I think you can't be argued with there. Melissa, who are your top 3 performers?
If you saw my notes, you would see that I put a 3 and then I crossed it out and I did it differently and crossed it out.
It's like a kid's Christmas list.
So I picked in 3rd place Alan Rickman because he's an amazing actor. He's in like top 3 movies for me: Sense and Sensibility, Harry Potter series, and Galaxy Quest. Those just I could watch any of those over and over, and I do every year see each of those.
Let's not forget Robin
I teach
Hood.
British literature, so it's not. That wouldn't have been my top watch, but he is in it.
Well, we're not going to talk about Die Hard.
He's my 3rd, and
Yeah.
oh yes.
Come on.
Truth be told, I only saw Die Hard for the first time last year, and I loved it. And it is a Christmas movie.
All right, perfect. Now, who are your number 2 and number 1?
Number 2 is Sigourney Weaver, because, as I said, the departure from her, previous roles, the tough woman, and I like that she brings up the sexism of her, like her interview was only about her boobs, and she was great in it. And number 1 was Rockwell. Yes.
Sam Rockwell. All right.
I love film. Worked at Blockbuster. Yes, I did. I think I'm older than all of you. So I've watched a lot of movies. And Rockwell was in a lot of indie, but this role, truly, he's a chameleon in so many ways. But I mean, the movie is just better with him because he's the one that calls out those things of like, hey, did you ever see this? Or he believes the crewmen are gonna die. And he adds like one of my favorite lines that my husband and I actually say when we watch movies is he's the plucky comic relief. And
that's right. And Sam,
so yeah, he's my number 1. But
Sam Rockwell is one of those guys that, along with Sigourney Weaver and Alan Rickman, you almost look at and you're like, what are they doing in this movie? Right? They're just at another level. But I'm so happy they decided to slum it for a summer or whatever and make this film. All right, Brady, you're up. Who are your top three?
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, we've discussed this already. Rickman has to be. I don't want to rank these people. I'm just going to pick three. How's that?
Oh my gosh, pick your number one. Be a man.
God, just do it.
I mean, Rickman's great. I mean, he's so great that we forget about him, right?
Yep.
I'm going to go with Shalhoub because I love that brand of comedy. The way he chose to play this role is just brilliant. I really have to talk about Tim Allen too. This is his best movie. He really, like most movies you see him in, he's not that great. Santa Claus is like an exception where it's a good movie, but it's still corny and, Tim Allen-y. This role was not, everybody thought he was miscast in this movie. And then he pulled it off brilliantly.
I agree. And I think everybody made great picks. I think my list is probably most similar to Melissa's, except it's reversed. So I had Sam Rockwell at number 3. The moment that put him on my list was just when he just yelled about if there was air. I was like, I can't not put this guy in my top 3. It's just so good. Sigourney Weaver, number 2. Against type, like you said, her freak out about the chompers, her whole thing. They even had the little Easter egg to aliens in there, and she's like, why is it always ducks that we got to crawl through? I love that they threw that in there. And she was just great. Always game to do whatever. And then number 1, Alan Rickman, for me, is the number 1 person in this movie. If we're talking about a pure acting standpoint, his moment with Quellic, his death scene, is so well acted. It's so heartfelt. It's so sincere. It feels like it belongs in a different movie. It's like he, I don't know.
Standalone.
It's just so good. I watch that scene and I go, how is this guy not going to win, the award for the top dog in this movie? Because he just outshone from an acting standpoint. Everybody played their role and did their job, obviously, because the whole cast excels. But I just feel like he's head and shoulders above everybody else, personally.
I will agree with Brady in the fact that this is Tim Allen's best performance, as in not animated.
Yeah.
Because Buzz Lightyear to me will always be number 1. But
sure.
That's just me.
No, I agree. As a live on camera performance, though, I think this is clearly his best movie that he's ever done.
And best physical shape. I mean,
oh yeah,
when he took his shirt off, I was shocked. I was like, what? No way. That's got to be CGI'd.
That's not Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
The only reason I didn't pick him was because he does play the guy with the bravado a lot. So I didn't feel that it was so far from what he's done. But I 100% agree with you. I've seen a lot of Tim Allen stuff, and it is far and away his best.
Absolutely. And I think it's going to stand the test of time. And maybe, if this is the movie that Tim Allen is remembered for at the end of his career when he's done making films, I think you could do a lot worse than to have this be at the top of your filmography. And it's something that I know he's proud of.
He actually had a choice. He had 2 sci-fi movies to star in.
Really?
He was originally given offered the role of Bicentennial Man.
Oh.
Or Galaxy Quest, and he went with Galaxy Quest.
Rule made the right decision there.
I think he did, absolutely. 100%.
Nice job, Tim.
Are you talking about the Robin Williams?
Yeah,
correct.
Wow.
Correct. Yeah.
I can't see that at all.
Wait. Does that mean we could have had Robin Williams as Taggart?
Possibly.
I don't know if that would have been okay. That probably would have been terrible. And I love Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Well, who knows? There's a variant timeline somewhere out there where Robin Williams was Commander Taggart of Galaxy Quest. And to the people that got to exist in that reality, I apologize. But since you exist in this reality, you get to listen to Bad Movies Rule. And we appreciate that you joined us today to listen to us talk about Galaxy Quest. We hope you enjoyed the new show, the new format. We're going to play with it and just try keep honing this to make this the best show possible for our listeners. We appreciate each and every one of you. So for Melissa Hewitt and Brady Cox and Joe Goratowski, Kurt Mummer, this is James Hauser. We appreciate you listening. Tune in to our next episode, which is going to be Rad, the bike movie.
Rad.
That's right. It's super rad. It's a movie it's basically the Karate Kid on a BMX. So if you've never seen it, it's pretty much plot for plot. Kid gets bullied. Kid competes in a bike race. Kid defeats bullies. So
sounds rad.
Join us for that, and we will see you all next time. Thank you so much.
Do you think that there's a group of aliens out there who have watched Mummerman? Who think that the Mummerman is actually real and may one day come?
Wouldn't that be great?
No, Mummerman, we need your help.
I'm sure there's some high strength alien metal out there.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Oh, thanks, guys.